Hello, let's talk about race. As usual, I have my handy dandy notebook. I've upgraded. We're using a moleskin now, but I got my notes all the same. And let's get into it. I'm trying to just give a little bit of a different perspective on everything that's happening. Where do we go from here? You know, what do we do now? How can we come together? Just a little bit of perspective and give a different take on everything that's going on. And yeah, just what's happening in the world around us. So sit back, relax, and welcome to another fireside chat with Meghan. Most of you who watch these videos, if anyone watches these videos, have known me for a long time, or, you know, met me in college or whatever, and you're pretty familiar with my background. I come from a place of privilege. I'm not gonna try to hide it or sugarcoat it or anything like that. Like, I know that I come from a place where, like, I didn't grow up experiencing, like, racism. Like, no one was ever racist to my face. I don't know, they could have been talking about things behind my back. I don't really know, but, like, maybe it's because I fit in, you know? Where I'm from, like, everybody's parents make about the same income. Everybody's parents have the same jobs. Everybody's parents are just, I don't know, we've all grown up together. Most of the friends I have, I've known them for so many years. I went to a very small high school. My graduating class was 33 people. So that's where I'm coming from. And I know that a lot of people right now are really struggling to understand the plight of the average African American or even person of color, the average plight of the person of color in America. Because the way I was raised to believe that the police are there to help me. If I saw a police officer, not be scared. If you're in trouble, you call the police. You know, I don't know, I was raised to look at the police as a resource. And so people that know me or know people like me that grew up in these safe communities, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said it best. She said, a community with defunded police looks like a suburb. And that's where I grew up. And it's the truth. In a suburb, you're raised to look at the police as, you know, heroes or just people that are there only if you need them. Most of us don't ever call the police. If we see a police officer, they're not like arresting somebody. Like, I don't know, the suburbs are a pretty boring place. And we say boring because there's no crime, but we don't have to constantly worry about crime because, you know, everyone we know has a house, goes to school. Their parents both have a job. They have two parents. You know, the suburbs are comfortable, and there isn't a huge police presence because there's not a huge crime rate because there are community programs in place. So I just want everyone to understand, just because you know a person of color like me or you know me, that doesn't mean that that's everyone's experience. And you have to understand why people are saying defund the police or why people are so afraid of the police. The police are killing people of color, specifically Black men, at a rate that is just unbelievable. And there's no way that someone who's not a person of color can ever understand that. And so, like, no one, thank God, no one has told me, like, oh, I understand your plight, because you can't. If you're not a person of color, you cannot understand what it's like to be a person of color in this country. And that's okay. You don't have to understand it, but you have to be able to understand why I would be upset. Okay, you have to understand where the anger is coming from. So the protesters and everybody, you know, crying on the news and, you know, people asking for change, you have to understand why people are angry. Because just because it's not your personal experience doesn't mean it's not happening. And I think that's something we all need to understand. I wholeheartedly believe in defunding the police. Not because we don't need police. Of course we need police. There's crime. Or the police, you know, keep order. We need police officers, but we also need community programs. We need better healthcare. We need better education systems. We need prison reform. Like, all of those things, in especially big cities, are being defunded because we think that throwing more money at the police department and the authority is going to solve the problems that we have in our community. But if there's no infrastructure in the community, then nothing changes. So I think that's vitally important for us to all understand. I really want to just touch on briefly what we call the talk, okay? Now, everyone who hears that term hears something different, okay? Most people have the talk with their parents about the birds and the bees and that talk. But there's a talk that Black families and, families of color who may look darker, have with their children. And that talk is really sad, but it's what to do when, you get in trouble, or how to not act suspicious, or how to make white people not perceive you as a threat. My brothers had a very different conversation with my parents than I did. It's just because when they go outside into society, they're Black men. And I'm a Black female, so I still have to worry about it. I've never been followed in a store, but I know that can happen. I'm blessed. God has blessed me with never having to experience overt racism, but I know it happens. My own brothers have had people tell them, oh, I don't like Black people, but I like you. And that's the kind of, community I grew up in. People, judge you based on your skin color, but they like us because we fit into this community and we're tolerable, and, people have known us for so long. We couldn't be the Black people that you see on TV. The criminals that the police are beating in the streets because they got belligerent with a police officer, or the police stopped a car and shot the person inside because they were getting aggressive. We could never be those Black people. But if you didn't know me and you saw me in the street, would you cross the other side? It's something to think about. It really is. And I've been friends with mostly white people my entire life. I think the first Black friend that I made was probably in high school. And that's wild for some people to think about. I mean, the average white person, the first friend they meet is a white person. And that's not anything to be ashamed about. It's just like there are more white people than Black people. We're a minority. That's just all it is. But it's like, I don't constantly talk about my Blackness or the fact that I'm Black, just because I don't know. I just don't talk about it a lot. And I think that is something that we should be talking about. I think a lot of people of color get into this habit of wanting to make everyone else feel comfortable. And I find myself doing it a lot too. Like, it even struck me. I mentioned in my other video how my father said, the internet's forever. Are you sure you want to be putting up these videos? And it just made me think about it. At first, when he said that, I was just kind of offended. I was like, Dad, you can't even say that you're proud of me for speaking my mind on the internet and sharing my opinion with others. But then I thought about it some more, and I was like, just the fact that he felt the need to say that to me is, part of this systematic oppression that people of color go through in our society. The fact that if I'm talking about my Blackness, an integral part of my identity, the fact that me talking about my Blackness or my identity, a part of my culture, I don't talk about it because, non-people of color, white people often get offended. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to be a nuisance on everyone, or I don't want to be the Black person that makes everything about being Black. Everything I do up until this point in my life has been to make other people feel comfortable. I also want to talk about something that I have previously not ever talked about, and I didn't realize that it bothered me until just recently. I was thinking about it. In high school, I was actually reading my diary the other day. Anyone who knows me knows I love journaling. And I was reading my diary the other day, and I came across an entry. Someone who shall remain nameless because I'm not here to dox people or expose anyone. And like I said before, I believe the character development is a real thing. In high school, I think it may have been like 9th or 10th grade, there was a kid, and he was a new student, and he came to school, and we were actually very close friends when he was a new kid. Like, I was one of his first friends that he made. We were super close. We texted all the time. Like, we were very friendly with each other. And then all of a sudden, I'm not sure if this is important to the story or not, but I'll just say it. He had come from a military school. And I don't know, I just know that the culture is sometimes very toxic masculinity, whatever, at military schools. But anyways, that was his past. He came to the school. We were very close. And then somewhere along the line something changed, maybe after a couple months. I don't really remember this that well, but I do remember him saying one thing to me, and I remember it kind of being a joke all throughout high school. And he had said to me that I reminded him of the hippo from Madagascar. Now, there are a couple problematic things with that statement. Number one, comparing African American people to animals is something that white people do a lot, and it's very offensive. I'm not an animal, I'm a human. Number two, a hippo. Nobody wants to be called a hippo. Like, obviously, like, I'm thick with 3 C's. Like, I don't really care. Like, I love myself. I always have, always will. Like, I know I'm not a size 0, but like, I'm not obese. Even if I was, like, that's no reason to call me a hippo. And number three, that hippo, I mean, it is a hippo. Like, Madagascar is a movie about animals. I don't know why I was doing air quotes. But the hippo is voiced by an African American woman. And I remember this, like, joke, I guess. Like, he viewed it as a joke or just something funny. Like, the hippo in Madagascar is, like, really funny. The name of the actress who voices her is, like, really escaping me right now. But, like, she is objectively, like, a funny character. And, like, everyone enjoys, like, Madagascar. Like, it's a good movie. It's a very wholesome movie. However, something bothered me about being compared to, you know, that particular animal in that particular movie. And I was just like, I remember thinking to myself, this can go one of two ways. I can either get really mad and get upset about it, or I can just laugh along. And I remember just making the decision to laugh along with it. And none of my friends ever said anything about it. It's like, even though they may have known it was offensive, they may have not known it was offensive, but like, because I had made the decision to, you know, laugh along with it and not be the Black person that is being offended all the time, I made the decision to laugh about it. And I consider myself to be a person that has really good friends, and no one ever said anything. Now, someone may have said, like, you know, a comment here or there, like one time or something. Like, like I said, I don't remember high school that well. So, like, I'm not even sure if somebody had made a comment or whatever. But I know that no one made a big stink about it because it happened. Like, he kept calling me that throughout high school. I mean, I think by, like, sophomore, like, no, junior or senior year, it might have stopped, or he might have said, like, 1 or 2 times or something, or, like, everyone forgot about it. I probably even forgot about it at that point in time. But it's just, like, things like this are things that we just can't let slide. I think I let it slide because I didn't want to offend anyone, or I didn't want to be the person that gets upset, or, you know, the person that makes us think about things. But, like, that shit is really hurtful. And since I've been making these videos, I've been very, very vulnerable. And, like, I'm not a person that, like, you know, hides my emotion and I'm like a block of ice, but, like, I'm not a super emotional person. Like, I don't cry ever. I cried in my first video that I posted. I don't really get mad about things. I honestly don't really talk about my personal life a lot. Like, people talk about their personal lives to me, and I listen, and I, you know, comfort them and make them feel better. But, like, I truly don't talk about my personal experience a lot. So this is, like, kind of weird for me and new for me to be, like, exposing myself like this. But I think it's really, really, really important, because we have to understand how harmful some of these things can be. That happened to me one time, and I'm 20 years old, and this probably happened to me when I was like 14 or 15, and 5-6 years later, I'm still, like, processing that and working through those emotions. And it just makes me think about all of the kids who might have gone, you know, to a school where they were racially profiled a lot, or race jokes were continuously made about them or something. And I just want everyone to fully understand how damaging that can be for someone, because, like, I don't know, it's, like, hurtful, and we shouldn't be, like, we have to watch what we say. My mom always told me, before you say anything, stop for 3 seconds and think about how it's going to sound coming out of your mouth. And 9 times out of 10, you probably won't say it to that person. And it's like, sometimes, like, even if you're thinking that comment, or you think that'll be funny, like, think about how the person might perceive that, and, like, how, you know, what the history is behind whatever you're saying to that person. Because I think, you know, there's a fine line between being so politically correct that we're never saying what we think or feel, and then, you know, saying something that's going to offend someone every second of the day. It's like we have to find some balance between saying things, but also understanding the effect that those same comments can have on people. Because it can be really damaging and really hurtful at times. So I just wanted to add that in because it's really important. I don't think anyone should have to apologize for just speaking how they feel, because I don't know, I think if everybody listened a little bit harder, we wouldn't be going through the problems that we're going through right now in our world. If everyone just took a couple more seconds to truly listen to what other people think and feel, so that we may understand what other people are going through, I think the world might be just a little bit better of a place. People of color do it again and again and again. We do little things every day that just, make us a little more uncomfortable so we can make other people uncomfortable. I'm sure everyone saw the video. If you haven't, I will insert it into this video. I'll put it up here. Of the woman in Central Park in the Ramble, it's a bird watching area for those of you that don't know, in New York City, and it's in Central Park, and a white woman had her dog not on a leash. Now, it's a rule in this part of the park, it's a bird sanctuary. All you have to do is keep your animal on a leash. Easy. Well, there was an African American man, and he was a bird watcher. And he asked the woman politely, "Can you please put your dog on a leash?" Like, it's just like, that's an ask that anyone would make. Can you please just put your dog on a leash? There's birds, it might be disturbing the birds, or it's just a rule in this part of the park. Please put your dog on a leash. And the woman called the police and said, "There's an African American man threatening my life. There's an African American man attacking." This woman is yanking this dog, choking this dog with her collar. And this black man who's a bird watcher, he said in an interview, now he caught this all on tape, so everyone knows that this woman is the villain in this story. Good thing he caught it on camera, because to blatantly lie about something like that is just despicable. And the man said in an interview with Gayle King, he said,
"There's a reason why I've never worn contact lenses."
What do you mean?
Because people react differently to a black man who wears little round nerdy eyeglasses and to one who doesn't.
Really?
Oh.
Honestly, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
we do little things as people of color, and no white person will ever notice this, and it's not your fault, because we all do it, and we've just been doing it for centuries. It's just something to notice. We all do little things to make everyone else more comfortable. Things won't change unless we change them. And we need to change our behavior and change the way we think about things, because it starts with you personally. And so I just want to add another little thing. Just one little thing. If you watch my videos and you still support the Confederate flag, turn this video off right now and think about why do you still believe in this flag? I believe in character development, and I believe that people can change. I believe that you can be racist one day and learn why racism is bad, and learn that you should respect other people and not be racist a week. That flag only stands for hatred. It doesn't stand for individual freedom. It doesn't stand for any of that. So I just want to ask you, why do you feel the need? Why do you feel such a strong pull to that flag? Something needs to be done about this flag. That's it.